And thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. My guest joining me in the studio and on Zoom. In the studio is Dr. Mutaka Alolo, and he is the Director of Special Projects and Investor Relations Office of the Vice President. He joins me in the studio. Also joining me is Casey Lato-Fossey. He's a minority spokesperson on finance, and he joins me via Zoom. And I want to start quickly by giving you a quick playback of the total recall. That sets a tone for this, on the back of which we'll have the conversation. Watch this.
Traffic, crazy snaking traffic. As far as the eyes can see, and as you can see behind me, this is the Adenta Dodowa Road. It used to be pretty easy to drive on in the morning and in the evening, but it has become a hot spot for traffic and a great border for those who live on this stretch. There are sprawling communities coming up on this stretch. This all the way to Oyibi, you have Ashiye, and then you also have places on this stretch with upscale middle-class residential areas, which has become pretty attractive for the middle class. The reason why in the last 2 years, this road is possibly one of the most traffic-prone areas in the Greater Accra region. What people have to do in the morning is wake up as early as 3 and 4 a.m. and avoid the main road, because if you stay on the main road, it's going to take you more than 3 hours to make a stretch that would ordinarily take you 20 minutes to travel. So what they do is find alternative routes. Now, this is one of the alternative routes that those who live on this stretch, who have to, on the daily basis, deal with the crazy traffic, have resorted to. These routes, as you can see in the background, is terrible in its own nature. It's not asphalted at all. It has gullies in it. It has craters in it. But people have to bear with that. That is the only way you can dodge the traffic. And it snakes by itself through the meandering communities in the connecting routes that join the main road. And so many have had to resort to this, as you see in the background, risking their own cars, their own health, and of course, having to pump a lot of money in repairing vehicles. For those who live in this particular community and on the stretch from Adenta all the way to Oyibi and Dodowa and beyond, it has become a living hell. But this is one of the roads that was touted a few years back as one that has been approved under the Sino-Hydro deal. It was supposed to have started years ago, but it hasn't started. The promise to get this road fixed and dualized, which was approved by Parliament as part of the first lot of the Sino-Hydro deal, hasn't materialized. And many of the residents in this area and in this community on the stretch are still hopeful that it will happen, that the politicians will keep their promise. How bad is the traffic?
It's very bad. Every day, every time in the day, it's bad.
So what do you do? I mean, I see that you've been trying to dodge it.
Okay, so I live at the Regimental Estate, so I have to go round and round, and the road at the back is so bad. So it's very difficult.
How early do you have to wake up just to dodge the traffic and get into town?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock?
Children ready by 7 so that we can leave home. If they are not able to dualize this road, at least the connecting roads, they should construct them. It would help. Actually, it's bad during the day, at certain times in the day, even on weekends. Yeah, it's bad. It's so bad. They need to help us.
In 2018, the Adenta Dodowa Road was one of 10 lots approved under the Chinese-sponsored Sino-Hydro deal. It was scheduled to begin in 2019. 2 years on, the road remains undone, in a complete state of disrepair, and with traffic congestion worse than anything you have ever experienced anywhere, all day, every day. The $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal was touted as the unprecedented arrangement to fix Ghana's infrastructural needs and modernize our roads.
Roads are a major issue for Ghana. Everywhere you go, it's roads and roads and roads. But when we were in opposition, the government at the time was telling us they've done all the roads. They showed us the roads in the Green Book. But when we came into office, the roads are not there. And so we had to find a new way. And the Sino-Hydro agreement is one way we are going to find to make sure our roads are done all across Ghana.
Well, fair to say, the Sino-Hydro dream has not materialized in its full glory as Dr. Bawumia had envisioned. This was his big dream. He had traveled to China to seal the deal in 2017, a barter arrangement that will see the Chinese spend $2 billion to fix Ghana's infrastructure. In return, Ghana will pay back with proceeds from refined bauxite.
Evans, interestingly, honestly, I think it's dead.
Keso Atafosing is ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament.
I think it's dead for a simple reason. We were made to believe that the government is bringing in a special structure which is going to solve our infrastructure problems. It is certainly not going to be a loan, but a barter system. And we will see an investment in excess of $3 billion US dollars over a period of time. Parliament approved an agreement for them to bring in the first tranche of about $500 million US dollars. But as we speak, under 25 million Ghana cedis has been drawn down. So that's, for me, after so many years, I can conclude that the Sino-Hydro agreement is dead.
On 21st November 2018, Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah announced that the first tranche of $649 million from the $2 billion facility has been made available to Ghana to access. 3 years on, only about $80 million of this amount have actually been released to Ghana. Dr. Mutaka Alolo is the Director of Special Projects and Investor Relations at the Office of the Vice President.
The way the Sino-Hydro is structured, you don't get the money all given to you. So it is given by how much projects you have done. So out of the 6 lots that have been approved, works are ongoing. So at every stage they raise IPCs. The 6 lots that have been approved, about 300 and something million, that's what has been approved. That's what is ongoing. So the 300 million,
300 something million
USD, yeah. That all that money hasn't been given to government. So the work needs to be done. Our engineers here will certify that this work has been done. Then they draw down the money. They pay, the banks pay the money. That is only then that it becomes a liability on us. So we have this, so far I think we've drawn down about almost close to 80 million, but
$80 million.
$80 million.
To put this in context, the Sino-Hydro deal is a $2 billion facility, out of which $649 million was made available in the first tranche for Ghana to access. So to have accessed only $80 million in 3 years raises red flags. As it turns out, the Chinese will only actually release the funds to Ghana when we show evidence of actual work done in executing the projects. Dr. Alolo again.
The bank will not just give you the money. If they give it to you, you can go and do anything else with it without...
So they want to see evidence of you actually started the project first?
Exactly.
Before they release the money?
Before
you can access?
Because before you can take the money.
Before you can draw down?
The money has been released for a specific project. So they want to see evidence that the work has been done before they pay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clearly, Ghana has not done enough work to warrant the Chinese release of more Sino-Hydro funds. Out of the 10 projects approved by Parliament, none is yet to be fully complete. 6 have started and are at various stages of completion. 4 others, including the Adenta-Dodowa dual carriageway, which was scheduled to start in 2019, have not started at all since Parliament, by a resolution dated 28th July 2018, approved the Master Project Support Agreement. If you live on the Adenta-Dodowa Road, Dr. Alolo says expect the project to start hopefully next year.
You know, as you are aware, last year was very slow. COVID literally slowed everything. China literally closed down for almost a year. So things were quite slow. So our side, what government is doing with this bauxite is government doesn't want to be in the future be burdened with the repayment of this. So as we are developing the whole integrated aluminium industry, then we make sure that the money we are drawing down for this project is in sync with that. When the repayments are due, we have enough funds to be able to assess that. So COVID kind of had an impact on the whole integrated aluminium side, and also the slowness in China as well in terms of their economic activity. So we had to kind of adjust. So those 4 lots that are yet to start, that the Adenta-Dodowa is part of it. So that's hopefully we will get it going by maybe, I'm not sure, towards next year or something, we'll get it started.
Unlike the Adenta-Dodowa Road, the Tamale Interchange, also financed under the Sino-Hydro arrangement, is well and truly on its way to completion. But even here, there has been delays.
In Tamale Interchange, in fact, Tamale Interchange should have really been completed by now, but there was a bit of hindrance with right of way where Zenith Bank building was in the middle. So it took us a long time to get that resolved. That has been done now, so it is ongoing, and hopefully by the end of the year that will be completed.
Okay. My colleague Batina Bugri, as part of this Total Recall episode, has been to the interchange site to see for herself progress of work. She spoke to Hassan Ibn Abdallah, who is a safety officer in charge of the project.
I can boldly tell you it's about 90% completely done. I think this is how it's going so far.
And what is left?
Approximately, let's say 10%, because we are expecting by December this month and this year, we should have the bridge joined together. We are expecting maybe somewhere June, July. The other supplements will also get completed.
Across the country, 5 other Sino-Hydro projects are also at various stages of completion. Atuforcing rejects the excuse that the completion of these projects and the accessing of the remainder of the Sino-Hydro funds have delayed largely because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
I do not believe that the pandemic is the cause of the money not coming. In fact, what's our global honestly, clearly, the structure, as I said, there was a defect from the beginning. The banks and the companies that is going to lend you money, Evans, they're not stupid. They know your economy, sometimes even better than you know. They have analysts analyzing you from morning to evening. That's all what they do, and they have been paid to sit and analyze you. Every step you take, whatever you do, they put it in their analysis in terms of their simulation to find out whether you can repay their debt or not. They know that as we speak, you are not mining bauxite. They know that as you speak, you do not even have someone sign concession with to do the mining for you. They know that you don't have a structure to obviously go out there to set up a smelter and to change the bauxite to an alumina. It's not in place. Even the power to do that is a challenge for you. They know for sure that if you are going to do this, it will take you more than 5 to 10 years to achieve that, looking at the slow pace of the way we do our things here. And so you think they're that crazy for them to obviously lend you money knowing very well that you can pay? No. No, they would not do that.
That is not true, because what I said was, there's already an existing mine which we have stake in at Awaso. So that is also one source of revenue that we have restructured for proceeds of that to be kept for lease repayment. The others will come and make up with the numbers, but that can start off with us, because when the loan, in fact, the first repayment to crystallize will be Tamale Interchange, and that would not be that much. And as of the time, this year definitely, the other angles of the project will all start. So we structured this in the sense that we will not really be overburdened when the repayment is due. That is actually also why all the projects have not started at the same time. So by the time Tamale Interchange will start, we would have had enough in the escrow to be able to repay this.
From Awaso?
From Awaso. And from the other mines that may start. It doesn't take years to get a mine started, a mine to start to operate. The mining will start.
But Awaso, as we speak, the only element of the three that you described that Awaso satisfies is mining.
Is mining.
You still haven't set up refining
yes.
and smelting.
Yes, that is true. But we already have.
So it comes back to the question I asked.
We already
that you have
smelter.
2 years to do refining, smelting that we haven't begun.
Yeah, we already have a smelter. A smelter has to be retrofitted.
Yes.
And plans are far advanced on that aspect as well. I'm just even talking about Awaso with the mining. We have Awaso mining, and there are plans to also do refinery there. That hasn't started. But the mine, you see, this thing was structured in such a way that proceeds from the mine, proceeds from the refinery, and proceeds from the smelter will all be put together, and part will be used to refinance this. So once the mine is operational, there will be proceeds coming from there. That will be used to service the repayments, while the others will come on stream.
Okay. A key block of the Sino-Hydro deal was the establishment of an integrated aluminium industry in Ghana that will refine Ghana's bauxite, make money, and use the proceeds to pay off the Chinese. The Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation was set up to lead this. The corporation has just announced the selection of its strategic partner, Rockshore International, to execute the agenda. Without a fully functioning integrated aluminium industry that can mine, refine, and smelt our resources, Ghana will struggle to pay off the Sino-Hydro facility, which was designed not as a loan, but as a barter arrangement. In fact, we have so far spent $90 million on the Tamale Interchange. The repayment of that facility is almost due. After forcing claims, government has put in place a guarantee to take up the debt if revenues from refined bauxite does not become available.
Let me say, subsequently, in the last few days when we had, Ghana had the Article 4 mission, we met with IMF again, and the mission chief said categorically that the IMF program, the IMF has recognized the Sino-Hydro drawdown as a loan because government of Ghana has signed an implicit guarantee with Sino-Hydro.
Okay.
So what it means is that the current 25 million, when it's time for us to pay, government of Ghana is the one that's going to pay, and we are going to pay this from public fund. We are paying it from the traditional structures that we use to repay loans.
Have you given a guarantee to the Chinese in case you are unable to use bauxite, refined bauxite, to pay?
But this obviously is clear. When we structured this, we structured it on the back of the bauxite. But of course, it is government standing in for this. So if you are not able to pay, government will have to step in. But we can't default, and we will not default.
Yeah.
Before the first repayment, there will definitely be proceeds from either the bauxite mining into the escrow for the repayment. But of course, in case that doesn't happen, government will have to step in.
And pay through traditional means.
But, well, when you say traditional means...
The way we've always paid other loans.
Yeah, well, it could be, but government didn't go to sleep on this. These processes are already ongoing. The integrated aluminium thing is going to happen.
Well, for residents on the Adenta Dodowa Road, they cannot wait any longer. If it's going to happen, then it must happen now.
It's really, really bad. I mean, we wake up early, but yet still we get to school very late. and the kids get tired. You have to wake them up very early. I think I wish they could dualize the road like what they've done with the Ebru road. That's the only solution to our problem.
So now you know where we are with the Sino-Hydro project. When I return from this very short, quick break, I'll hear Dr. Attoforsen's take on where we are. He himself was featured in it. There has been some updates, though, since we did this recording. I'll put that to him and see if the latest updates address his concerns. And I'll hear from Dr. Alolo. Stay with me. And my guests joining me, obviously, they've watched the full documentary. Case Attoforsen, he is, of course, a key player in that whole piece. And Dr. Alolo, Ms. Attoforsen, let me start with you, Doc. So since we spoke, Dr. Alolo has said to us that $100 million have since been drawn down. And some of the 4 other lots that have not begun, most of them will begin by the end of the year. Yeah. This year.
Or next year, early next year.
Or early next year. Okay. Does that address some of the key concerns you had when we spoke a month or so back?
Evans, thank you very much. Evans, let me begin by saying that first, when the vice president visited China, somewhere around March 2017, they came back with a promise that China has pledged to deliver $15 billion US. In fact, government communicators, including a newspaper that is very pro-government, the Daily Guide, published and said that Bawumia hit a jackpot of $15 billion US. Subsequently, we did not hear of $15 billion again. Later, they came to Parliament with a master project support agreement that says that they have agreed with the Chinese to get an amount of $2 billion US. And they informed us that they are going to draw down $500 million. In fact, it's $468 million. Official numbers that was submitted to Parliament is before me, and that's what I'm quoting from. The excess is in a form of government contribution, be it what we call the Sino-Hydro premium and the, some of the commitment fees and others that we have to pay. In fact, the EPC is $464 million. Now, the official numbers before Parliament, as of December 2020, is that the government of Ghana was able to draw down an amount of $22 billion US only. And that is why I've repeatedly said under $25 million. So that is the official numbers before Parliament. And this is a question we asked the finance minister as part of budget, and then they actually provided us this information. If this has changed after December 2020 to date, and he's telling me that an additional about $80 million has been drawn down to make it $100 million. Yes, so be it. But you see, it does not change the difficulties that we are in today. You pledge to deliver the first 10 lots in 4 years, in fact, in 3 years. As we speak, none of the project has been completed. You pledge that Chinese have agreed to give you $2 billion US. And you are saying that you've not been able to draw down a quarter of that kind of amount. In fact, as of December 2020, only about 1% of the $2 billion had been drawn down. If he says that $100 million has been drawn down, it still represents about 5% of the total $2 billion US. So it does not, convince me that the Sino-Hydro project is ongoing. It has indeed suffered some setback. And I tell you why.
what we are experiencing today with this Sino-Hydro agreement is government's own making. Government, in an attempt to be creative in a form of accounting its public debt stock, decided to probably hide something that is a loan and call it barter agreement. Let me use those words. Because clearly, the structure of the Sino-Hydro agreement is a loan, not a barter. I don't know of anything called barter, because clearly, this is in modern days, no one, goes into such agreement and call it barter. This is a loan agreement, but in attempt, because government decided to hide it, decided to come out with a complex structure that is probably not acceptable to the banks, and the banks started dragging its feet. The Chinese, as I've said earlier, are not Father Christmas. If they lend you loans, they expect you to pay. If you don't have a workable structure and they think that you cannot pay, they will drag their feet, and they are dragging their feet. Clearly, as we speak, this 25 million, and if he says it's 100 million, it is part of the public debt. Evans, I entreat you to look at the IMF data. They have added the Sino-Hydro loan drawdown to date as part of public debt. So it was 90 on the part of the government. The government intended to hide public debt by reporting Sino-Hydro agreement differently. Today, we are back to square one, because the very debt that you are hiding, the international community, the multilateral institution, IMF, has now recognized that, because you have issued an implicit guarantee. And that guarantee will certainly crystallize. Because look, the bauxite in question that you are talking about does not belong to the vice president, neither does it does belong to the president. The bauxite in question belongs to the people of Ghana. The proceeds or the revenue coming from the bauxite is certainly public fund. So if you pay, and when you pay, you can't pay into any other account apart from the consolidated fund. And if you pay it from the consolidated fund and you use it to service any form of liability, it qualifies under the Public Financial Management Act, what is called a loan, the Loans Act. So I've urged them that instead of you trying to hide it and to collapse the project, come clean and make sure the project works. So I can conclude, and I've said it, and I'm going to say it again, that the Sino-Hydro agreement was dead on arrival because of the structure. Dead on arrival, clearly, because I've said it, and the official records will bear me out, that I've said that based on the structure that the government had decided to enter with the Chinese counterpart, this loan agreement will go nowhere, because they are trying to hide something that is not workable. No wonder we are where we are. Unfortunately, the people of Ghana are those that are struggling.
Dr. How do you respond to that, particularly now that we have a guarantee to say, in case we're unable to pay, we'll pay with public funds? Doesn't that prove Dr. Forson's point that it's now become a loan and not necessarily a barter arrangement that was initially communicated?
Evans, good evening, and good evening to all your cherished listeners. Listening to Dr. Forson, I'm quite, I think I can see clearly that now it's a bit drifting from Sino-Hydro is a failure, it hasn't started, and back to whether it's a loan or barter. That was different from the conversation we've been having since the morning, but that is fine. The whole thing, of course, it was something that was a bit new, so it had to be explained over and over for it to be understood. As I've been saying since morning, since this project started, the Sino-Hydro's structure, it wasn't hidden from anybody. In fact, there were public documents, the agreements were all laid before Parliament. And it was structured in the sense that government of Ghana wants infrastructure today. And as part of that, we are going to commit ourselves to develop an integrated aluminium industry in the country, which has so many benefits. For instance, we have a lot of huge reserves of bauxite on the ground. So government was committed that we want to invest in the mining of the bauxite, of course, with partners, which in the markets, for instance, when you take bauxite, it's about $50 per ton or something. You refine it to alumina, it takes you to about $450. To aluminium, it takes you to over $2,000. That's the the benefits of such a value chain. And that's what government committed to doing. And in so doing, we went into an arrangement with Sino-Hydro, which wasn't hidden. It was explicitly stated in the agreement that proceeds from the refined bauxite will be used for this repayment. So Atuforson is saying the same thing that is in the agreement. I don't know what he's saying, that we tried to hide something. This wasn't hidden.
I think his point is that the part about the guarantee wasn't something that was made public at that time.
Nothing was.
It was all about barter. We're paying with refined.
Evans, when you say something about the guarantee that wasn't public, this agreement was laid before Parliament.
You mean after the time we went to Parliament and Atuforson and co looked, it was in it?
This is the agreement that we have. It's laid before Parliament. It's in Parliament. It's a public document. It's just like you, Evans, you have a business plan. When you go to a bank today to borrow money, they will need to know what you want to use the money for. If you just say, I want to borrow money and spend, they will not give you any money. But you have to demonstrate what you want to use it for. And usually they would want to see that you want to invest the money into something that will be able to generate return to repay, something like that, especially if it's a business loan. But that notwithstanding, they'll be satisfied with your business plan, everything, that this business, it can generate the revenue to repay this. But of course, they will still ask you for collateral, just in case that business fails or in case of anything. So they guarantee the one. We have committed ourselves as government to develop this integrated bauxite aluminium industry, of which the proceeds will be used to repay this. And of course, they believe in that. They believe in the demonstration that we gave to them that we'll be able to do it. But of course, they say if this thing, that in case it doesn't happen, government will step in to pay. And of course, government agreed that they will step in to pay. But that notwithstanding, government is committed to developing this and to making sure that at the time the first repayment is due, there's enough revenue generated from the industry for this repayment. That's just how simple this was structured. So there wasn't anything hidden in the agreement that everything was explicit and it was presented to Parliament. That's what was agreed. But that's how we structured the whole arrangement.
I mean, Dr. Atuforson, so this implicit guarantee, I mean, the point is it had always been part of the agreement that the Parliament approved.
To understand what I've been saying all along. I mean, the basic point is that the agreement as presented to Parliament is nothing but a loan. It qualifies under the Loans Act. It qualifies under Public Financial Management 2016 as a loan. Indeed, in an attempt to hide it and not to record it as public debt, they decided to call it barter. And that is what we fought against. And that is what we said, that the structure as they have created is not workable. And even if it works, it is going to be classified as a loan. So they should come clean and ensure that it works. In fact, I raised the point that the very guarantee that they've added to the structure makes it a loan because it commits government of Ghana in paying the debt. I also raised the fact that the very, revenue sources are public revenue, and it should be going to the consolidated fund, and that is what they will be using to service the debt. Then that certainly will make it a loan. But you see, to make it very simple, the very reason why the project has failed, or we are not getting the resources that we need to finish the project for the people of Ghana, is because of the structure. Let's know what deceives you. The structure is terrible. The structure is not acceptable. The structure was dead on arrival.
Okay,
and that is why it is moving like a tortoise. And I can tell you that the project has collapsed. And you should just admit it. That after 4 years, if you sign 10 EPCs, and after 4 years, you cannot boast of even one single EPC completed. And you are still sitting down and trying to tell the people of Ghana that you have done well. Apologize to us first. Apologize to the people of Ghana.
He has a response.
Not doing the project as you have to do.
He has a response.
What is your job? Sitting at the office of the Vice President as the man in charge of this project. Tell us what you've been able to do. You've done nothing.
He has a response.
Achieve what you have to do.
He has a response to that.
Honorable Atuforson, it's like you are refusing to see a failed project. An example of a failed project is Hope City. An example of a failed project is STX. Sino-Hydro projects. In fact, even from the documentary that has just been played, you can see Tamale Interchange almost completed. Go to Cape Coast. There are certain roads that are completed in Cape Coast and other roads ongoing. Western region, Pristia Huni Valley, roads are ongoing. Go to Eastern Corridor, it is ongoing. Go to Nyinahini Town Roads and other surrounding areas in Nyinahini. The projects are all ongoing. How then do you turn back to call this a failed project? I've just given you a classical example of a failed project. Hope City, STX, they never even took off. This is a project that is ongoing. Then you call it a failed project. It's like we are drifting from whether the project is working now to the structure of the project. We went to Parliament. You see, if you want to say something is a failed project, you have to look at the terms of the agreement that was signed and what was presented to Parliament. It was in the agreement that we have presented 10 EPC contracts and 10 deferred payments projects, which are to start at different, anyway. And before the projects are started, there are certain conditions precedent. And that is very clear and explicit in the agreement. It states that a commencement date has to be officially communicated by Sino-Hydro based on its financing with the financiers to us. So as and when that is done, then the commencement begins. The commencement doesn't necessarily mean that the very day that we took this agreement to Parliament, the commencement begins from there. And it is explicit in the agreement. You can read the agreement. It states that there are certain conditions that makes this project effective. And like I said earlier, the first 4 projects became effective in December 2019. The other subsequent 2 became effective in 2020. And all these projects, we have 3 years as construction period. We are still even within the 3 years. Tamale Interchange is going to finish. In fact, in the documentary, it was stated that even in Tamale Interchange, there are delays. It is actually a self-set time to complete it earlier than the actual construction period. That's why we say there are delays, according to us. But based on the agreement we've signed, we are not even anywhere near the construction period where it should be completed. And it will be completed even way before time. So it's not like it has delayed or it has failed, especially with the Tamale Interchange project, as was stipulated in the documentary.
The agreement was approved by Parliament and signed in 2018.
Right.
Tamale, which is your most advanced, started December of 2019.
Official commencement.
December 2019. Between 2018, December 2019, more than a year had passed before we started.
Right.
Why? Why the gap?
Because there are certain conditions that needs to be achieved before the project becomes effective.
I asked that because in 2018, after we approved it, we were told by the government that 249 or 246 or just 650, just shy of $1 million had now been released for Ghana to access as part of the first phase. Okay, so that money was there as of 2019, as of 2018, in fact. But then it takes us a whole year after to begin to draw down that amount. That is the question.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That the agreement that went to Parliament, 646, which was in the EPC contracts, is the general agreement, is the engineering procurement agreement, and the deferred payments agreements. But within that, there were certain conditions that needed to be met before the agreement becomes effective. It doesn't mean that once parliamentary approval was one of the conditions precedent for the effectiveness of the project. So once that was done, other things needed to be done. We had environmental studies to do. We had to go through Sino-Hydro. We had to go through the financiers and all that. And mind you, this is more like a structure that Sino-Hydro is borrowing on their back from their financiers for the country. So they have to go to their financiers to meet all these conditions before the drawdowns are done. And that is exactly what has been done. It takes time. It's a process. It's not a one-day thing. You take CDB, for instance. CDB started under Atamils. Part of CDB loan is currently even still being disbursed. Will you say it's a failure? It's currently even still being disbursed. Something we started over 7 years or something ago, or 8 years ago. It's a process and it takes time to do. Atuforsen, when he first started saying that the Bawumia went to China and came back and said he hits a 15 billion jackpot. 15 billion we never said that it was Sino-Hydro. It was different projects. And if you look at all the other projects that...
The Sino-Hydro component was what, the 2 billion?
Was just part of it as 2 billion. But there are some other projects that were all part of it. You had the TVET project, you had the Accra Intelligent Traffic Management projects, then we have the Polychanda project, different projects, which some have started, some haven't started yet. But these were all the projects put together. And as they will know, they should understand or they should know better because they went for CDB loan. Even up till today, it hasn't even finished disbursing. So it's a process. That is why all the projects that are under the Sino-Hydro that we took to Parliament, they are starting at different levels. And mind you, we also structured this in a way that's very unsimilar to what they did under CDB. Under CDB, even the undisbursed amount, we had to be paid interest on it at some point, which was later on, I understand, rectified or so. With this arrangement, in fact, the repayments of the projects that they are executing, it takes effect from the commencement of each project. So, for instance, after 3.5 years, repayment of Tamale Interchange or those projects that were approved from the December 2019, those are the ones that will kick in. And the subsequent ones will all kick in. Yeah. It was also structured that way, based on our own internal arrangement to develop the integrated aluminium industry, so as to be able to have enough resources for the repayment when they are
but here's a challenge. So what Parliament approved, the first lot was 10 lots.
Yes.
That was the first phase. Yes. 10 lots was approved. Yes. Under that, was supposed to, all the lots were supposed to start. In fact, you gave yourself timelines based on what you knew the arrangement and structure was.
Right.
I come back to my favorite road because for me, it's I live on that road, so I come back to that. You told us in the 2020 budget, paragraph 303, quote, evaluation of the remaining 6 lots is almost completed and work is expected to commence in the first quarter of 2020, which is last year, January, February, March. Right, was supposed to begin. That included Adenta Dodowa dual carriageway. Right. It hasn't started.
Right. So your point is it hasn't started.
Although you set your timeline under the structure.
Your point, it wasn't under the structure. This is the structure. And the structure says that what was presented in Parliament, what has been presented to Parliament says that there are certain conditions precedent to the effectiveness of every project.
But the quotation that I read to you, work is expected to commence first quarter.
Yes.
Why hasn't it commenced?
But that is not under the structure. What you say is under the structure.
I mean, you forget about the structure, but this is what you told Parliament.
Why it hasn't commenced is a process that is being done, and we are expecting that will commence by the first.
No, but process. This was said to Parliament, factoring in the process.
Yes. You know, 2020 was kind of a turbulent year for everybody.
No, but this wouldn't have been affected by COVID. Remember that this is first quarter. This is before COVID took its grip on the rest of the world.
When did COVID start? COVID started later part of 2019.
Well, I'm talking about for Ghana. Remember that COVID could not have been a factor because because the 650 million had already been released before COVID in 2018. Right. So COVID could not have been a reason.
If you understand what I'm saying that 646 was made available.
Yes.
Made available.
Yes.
And to access that, there were certain conditions that you needed to meet before that is released.
But COVID could not have affected those conditions.
In 2020, there was a time in 2020 that most part of 2020 that China was literally close to the whole world. But that notwithstanding, we said they were processing the remaining 6. 2 has been approved and has also started out of the 6 that was not approved. The other 4 are in the process of being started, which we are expected to start early next year.
Yeah, but you don't even acknowledge that you missed this timeline. You haven't gone back to Parliament 2020. 2021.
Evans, what I'm saying is, as far as I am concerned, when we went to Parliament with the agreement, we said these projects are going to start based on certain conditions precedent.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this is a 2020 budget I'm reading to you.
Yes, it was.
But what you're referring to is a 2018 budget in which you laid out the whole plan.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you said the 6 were being processed, or it was being assessed to be started.
Yeah.
2 out of that were approved to start. The remaining 4, recently, we've just heard that 3 have been approved, which we are expecting to start early next year. It's a process, and it just doesn't happen within a day. Or it just doesn't. It's a process that you need to meet. If there were 6, if we took 10, 4 were approved, remaining 2 were approved subsequently, and other 3 have been approved pending official documentation.
In the 2019 November, when the finance minister was reading this budget and telling Parliament that the project will start first quarter of the next year, you saying the finance minister was not aware that it was a process?
No,
that needed to be completed before first quarter?
See, when I say it's a process.
Yeah.
You set timelines that this process is supposed to be met, but certain eventualities happen, and it has delayed. But it's still being processed. Like I said, the 6 that he spoke about in 2019, 2 have been approved and are currently ongoing. You can send your reporters out to go and check it out.
So Adenta Dodowa, you say, will now start end of year?
Early next year.
Oh, not end of year?
Early next year. Let's say early next year. Towards the end of.
Are you setting or this is guess?
It's not a guess. I'm quite
certain. You're setting. Because Total Record will return to this early next year.
We've got information from China that has been approved, but we are actually waiting for the official documentation for that.
No, wait. So this is important. So for people like me who live there, who are watching us, it will start.
My estimate is we are expecting it to start early next year.
Early next year.
Any unforeseen circumstances.
January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Which of these months is your best?
I can't give you a specific month.
But early next year is too vague.
Let's say next year. Barring any unforeseen circumstances. But of course, you see, these are processes. And we have to be quite mindful not to just jump into conclusion and say that Sino-Hydro project is a failure. You have 10 projects that were taken to Parliament, and when they were taken to Parliament, you kept saying, we said we'll finish this in 3 years, we'll finish this in 3 I think you have to get the context right. The construction period for the projects are 3 years. Anytime it commences, it starts. So when it starts, it takes 3 years to complete the project. You have 6 out of 10 of the projects that are currently ongoing across the whole country.
And then you have a half a year to start repairing.
Exactly. Then you turn back and say it is a failure. It is quite unfair to say it's a failure.
Let me put that to Forcing very finally.
What is a failure is a project that you claim will start that never sees the date of light. That never starts, nothing at all. I mean, this is actually a project that
Mr. Forcing, factually, you have a project that has 6 lots already started, various stages of completion. One is 90% Tamale, the rest in Takrade, in Central Region, Dodo Pepeso Road. Evidence of it actually were going. You cannot call that failure or collapse or failed, can you?
Evans, first let me say that as for NPP, even if there's water shortage, they think of coronavirus that has caused the water shortage. When there is light off, it's COVID. Everything that has gone on wrong in this country is COVID. So I'm not surprised that they are blaming COVID. But Evans, let me say this. If you promise to deliver $2 billion worth of projects, and 3-4 years down the line, from your own analysis, you have only delivered 5% of the $2 billion. How do you call it?
But when you say 5%,
but that's factual. You've done 100 million, which is 5%.
No, but you see, you have to
it's okay. Let him.
So Evans,
yes.
Evans, can he also confirm to us that as we speak, they have paid the Sino-Hydro premium, being the insurance for the drawdown of the loan?
Have you?
So if haven't you paid that? You have paid that.
What do you mean?
The Sino-Hydro premium, the insurance.
Insurance for the
yes,
drawdown.
what has been approved? The 6 laws that are currently on.
The insurance cover for those have been paid.
They have been paid, but those that have not started, it hasn't been paid. This wasn't structured like CDB at all, so you shouldn't try to get equalization for this.
So you have insurance worth $62.2 million that you have paid already, according to the records that we have. $62.2 million insurance that you have paid already. And you are proud to tell us that you have drawn down only $100 million. And so Ghanaians should clap for you. Can you also commit to us and tell us that they have paid management fee?
At first, it's like you don't understand.
Let him finish. We can wrap up. I need to.
He's asking.
No, I'll come up. Please wrap up so that I can get it.
So they have paid insurance worth $62.2 million being Sino-Hydro premium. And he's telling us that so far they've been able to draw down $100 million. I contest the $100 million because from the official numbers before us in Parliament tells us that as of December 2020, they have drawn down an amount of $22 million. At that time, they had already expanded, in fact, spent an amount of $62.2 million in the form of Sino-Hydro premium. What about the management fee? How much have they paid? They should tell us.
Okay.
Have they paid any commitment fee? How much is it? They should tell us. Let us aggregate that. And then you will see the contest that we are saying that the project has failed.
Okay.
And I heard him saying that we should compare that to Hope City. Hope City, for God's sake, is a private business. It's not government business. It's not government business. So anytime for MPP, they like equalization. Anytime they are wrong and you try to correct them, then they try to equalize. We are building a country, for God's sake.
Evans,
What is wrong is wrong.
I think Honorable Atuforsen
we are telling them that our policies are simple. What we are saying is simple, Mr. Muntaka. What we are saying is simple. Clearly, I wouldn't be proud if I promised to deliver $2 billion worth of a project. And 4 years down the line, I've delivered 5% of that project. I wouldn't be proud. So please, eat your humble pie. Apologize to the people of Ghana and reassure us that you will deliver it.
Okay.
That's what we expect.
Okay, but very quickly, yes.
I think Honorable Atuforsen is just trying to confuse our viewers.
But very quickly, just address it.
He's just made some inaccurate pronunciations. He's saying we've paid 62 million of insurance claim. I don't know what he's basing that on.
Have you paid that or not?
But I don't have the accurate figure, but I don't think we've paid. What the insurance claim that has been paid is 7% of the project that has started. So this will be like 7% of the 33 million that has been started. But you see, he's saying we've drawn down only 100 million. You have to understand how these projects work. It's an infrastructure type of financing. The projects, the drawdowns are paid based on actual work done. I've just told you that commencement of the first project was in 2019. The second project was in 2020. So as and when they execute the project, they are constructing the road, they reach certain milestones, they rate a certificate. You are saying in May, the official record you have was 20 million. From May to now, there's a lot of work that have gone on, and there are contractors on all the sites across. So at every point in time, IPCs are raised, and they are being paid. In fact, it's more than 100 million. It's not just 100 million. I won't be surprised tomorrow it will actually increase because construction is ongoing.
When you get the latest update,
on daily basis.
Share with me. Dr. Lulu, thank you very much. Dr. Kesuf Atuforsen, I'm grateful again. We'll return to this matter definitely. He's given us another date for Adenta Dodowa. He says early 2022.
All things being equal.
Well. We will check. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
My name is Kujo Yankson. Let me tell you how to turn back time. You can now bring back all the fun, all the excitement, all the controversy of the Super Morning Show and all your favorite Joy shows when you go to myjoyonline.com/podcasts. Just select your favorite show and bring it all back again. Joy 99.7 FM, radio for discerning listeners.
Radio, Joy 99.7.